the System, the feminist gaming podcast. We have back a previous guest, Mill, and she is one of the developers of a very exciting feminist board game called Library Labyrinth that has been having a quite a stratospherically successful Kickstarter campaign, raising funds to do all sorts of wonderful things with it. So starting off, Mill, can you remind us what Library Labyrinth is and describe up what the build up to the Kickstarter was?
Sure. So Library Labyrinth, I've got a copy of our prototype right here. Woo. It's a tabletop game set in a cursed library. All of the monsters and terrible things have come to life and escaped from their books. And so your task as a team is to gather a team of famous fictional and historical women who are going to help you capture the monsters and put them back in their books where they belong. So that's the pitch. So yeah, the Kickstarter, we started working on the game back in May 2020. So it was a sort of lockdown project in a way, and I was furloughed. So my friend Jess was like, "Who wants to design a game?" I was like, "Yeah, great, perfect. That'll give me something fun to do." So we started working on it then. We brought in a couple of artists, which is Sam and Ella, who are fantastic. And so then we started building the Kickstarter. Originally, we thought we were going to get there a bit sooner. We thought we were going to get there 2021. But I think all of us changed jobs and 3 of us moved house in that time. So life sort of got in the way a bit. So we were originally going to launch it summer 2021, but then we were like, wait, well, actually, March makes sense because that's World Book Day and International Women's Day, and it's Women's History Month and all this kind of thing. We just thought, well, let's just wait. We were like, we could do this in like October, but let's just wait and do it in March and get all that kind of extra oomph behind it. And I'm really glad we did because so many places like Board Game Geek and stuff were sort of highlighting women designers and things like that. So we got a really nice push behind it from all of that, basically.
What did you include in the different tiers of the Kickstarter?
So obviously you could get just a game, or you could get 2 copies of the game or 3 copies of the game. So you could give one to a friend or donate one to a school or a library or something, which is something we were really encouraging, or Board Game Cafe, something like that, community groups. We've also got a selection of tote bags, so they're quite big, sturdy ones, actually. They're really nice, with some of the artwork on. So you could get one with some of the women on. It's like a sort of grid of 16 of the women. Or you could get one with some of the literary terrors on. So again, the sort of grid of 16 terrors. So just a nice way to kind of showcase the artwork because it is so beautiful. And sometimes I think like on the cards, it could be a little bit small. And so it's just a nice way to kind of go, oh, let's blow up this fabulous artwork and everybody can enjoy it. And they look great. The bags, I definitely want to get my hands on a couple of those. And we've got some postcards as well. So you can get artwork on the postcards. Probably the most interesting one is that you could sponsor a workshop. So if you didn't want a copy of the game, or if you wanted to do it sort of as an add-on to your copy of the game, we're planning a series of workshops that we can take into schools and community groups, libraries, things like that, where we can kind of explore the ideas behind, like explore the stories of these incredible women. Some of them, as I say, are quite famous, people that you might have heard of a bit more, like Marie Curie is quite well known, Joan of Arc. But then some of them are a bit less well known, like you've got Enheduanna, who was the first named author, like way back in, sort of 3000 BC, and not very many people have heard of her. And it's just incredible that everyone, when they think of the first author, they think of Homer. No, that's the first male author. Let's talk about who was this incredible woman way back before her time, kind of making like pioneering strides in the world of kind of poetry and storytelling and stuff. So but yeah, there's loads of other women in the game that we feature that people go, oh, I don't know who that is. Like, characters from folk tales or women from history that have kind of been swept under the carpet a little bit by the sort of male-dominated world. So yeah, so we're going to take these workshops in.
That workshop idea in particular sounds such a perfect way to sort of gently introduce the fact that, oh yeah, there is an entire pantheon of history that is basically just forgotten about, and kids don't know that. They're just going to go, oh, that's exciting, that's exciting, that's exciting. I might buy a copy just to see if I can get it into my local primary school.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, absolutely encouraged with, as I say, and if the local primary school wants a workshop, we're going to have like different workshops for different age groups. So, you know, we've got kind of ideas for younger groups that involves kind of like almost kind of reinventing the game as a kind of live thing, where they'll each be given a skill or a couple of skills, and they've got to find a partner who can help them to defeat one of the literary terrors that might be sort of stuck up on the wall around the room. So they've got to sort of find their buddy who's going to help them to do that. So it's all sort of like symbol matching for the skills. So there's different sort of categories of skills that you've got to match to capture each of the different monsters. So yeah, so that's the sort of the primary age group level, and then kind of, as I say, talking about some of the stories of those characters and things as well. And then kind of as we get into kind of the older age groups, we've got ideas for people to sort of talk about themselves a bit more, and kind of, you know, giving them some categories and kind of going, you know, what are your strengths? Where do you fit into this this kind of, as you say, this pantheon of incredible women? And kind of, yeah, getting people to kind of think about themselves and big themselves up and go, yeah, I'm pretty cool, actually. I can do all these things. So yeah, we're really keen to kind of help people to really see what their strengths are, and really kind of work on them, and yeah, figure out how they can help each other, where they might go, well, actually, I'm not very good at this thing, but it turns out you're really good at this thing. So if we work together, we can do anything.
I have to compliment you on the design of the actual game play, because we had a play of it, and I've played it a few times, and it's very intuitive, but it's also challenging, and you have to be very deliberate and thoughtful in the way that you play. Otherwise, you end up with 7 terrors open on the tile board before you've realised that you're playing it wrong.
Yes, yes. I watched your playthrough, and I went, oh, they forgot that they'd already lost. Yeah, it is. You do have to sort of keep an eye on what you're doing, definitely. And there's kind of, you can scale the difficulty as well, so you can change that kind of lose condition. So if you wanted to make it a bit easier, you could say, oh, when there's 7, when the 7th terror comes out, that we lose. Or if you wanted to make it harder, you could say when the 5th terror comes out, that we lose. So the standard is the rule of 6, basically. So everything is 6. There's 6 different categories. There's when the 6th terror comes out, you lose. There's your hand limit is 6. But that's the kind of the standard game, and as I say, you can scale the difficulty in all sorts of ways. Different floor tiles, so you can have different numbers of monsters that come out, or like, you know, more places where you can reshelve things, or more blank tiles if you want to. So yeah, there's a lot of difficulty scaling you can do, and I don't know if you've played the solo mode at all.
I have.
That's I think Jess introduced a new rule. I don't know whether she's uploaded it onto the online version, which is the trolley dash monster smash.
You mentioned that, like, when we first started talking, and then I'm so glad that that's made it in, because it's such a good idea. Because of course there'd be a mad magic trolley in a magic library.
Yeah, if everything in the books is coming to life, why not the trolley as well? So yeah, I'm really excited about that, where you can sort of jump on the trolley and take the trolley's books with you to capture the monster as well. So yeah, so there's a lot going on. And then in terms of like the Kickstarter, the one of the stretch goals was to have kind of shaped meeples. So we're going to have a shaped trolley meeple, shaped curse meeple, and things like that. So it's going to be a bit more interesting than your sort of black pawn or your little square box. So yeah.
I wish you'd filmed your reaction to our playthrough, and then we could in turn have filmed our reaction to your reaction.
We just
I'd started that loop.
Yeah, reaction inception, just constant. Yeah, it was. I was watching it whilst I was eating my dinner, and I was just like, "Oh, but it was lovely actually, because you guys were so engrossed in like talking about the characters, and like it was such a conversation starter. And quite often with games, you're so kind of focused on just the gameplay that you don't necessarily like socialize with the people that you're with, if that makes sense. Like, board gaming is such a sociable activity, but also it's really nice particularly if you're playing with a group that maybe you don't know so well, to kind of have those things that you can step off to talk about. I think you guys were talking about, oh, what's the Jabberwocky? And there's somebody else is, oh, the Jabberwocky, we learned this in school. And it was really interesting to watch you guys play and just kind of go, oh, they're really like getting into the characters and like talking about these women. And I think I can't remember which one of you it was, said, oh yeah, I've just read a book about her, and actually and had all this information. And I was like, this is amazing. And everybody else is sitting there going, wow, I had no idea about this incredible woman. And that's exactly what we want, really. So I didn't mind that you guys messed up the rules. I was like, they've got into the spirit of the game, and that's what it's about, really. Like, quite often people play games wrong the first time, and it doesn't matter as long as fun,
Yeah, and it is like you say, inspiring that like collectivization of knowledge. I had no idea like who 90% of the people were, but I know who Mary Seacole is. And then I might think, oh, everyone knows who Mary Seacole is, but maybe I'm the only one in most rooms that I've been in who's even heard of her.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, particularly, like, I think about half of our backers are in the US, and you say Mary Seacole to them and they don't know who that is necessarily. Like, some of them will, obviously, but a lot of them are like, no idea, because she's such a kind of British icon. As I think she was named like Britain's favorite black or something like a few years ago, and they erected this statue of her. And we've been working a lot with the Mary Seacole Trust to kind of make sure that we're getting her story right, and make sure that we're representing her properly and everything. And they're really happy with everything we're doing with it, which is great. Because that sort of cultural consultancy is so important to us. We had a chat with Mick and Starla from Our Family Plays Games, who do like a lot of tabletop gaming streaming, and they're sort of African American, and they sort of said, oh, but what about this person? And we're going, oh yeah, they were on the long list. I don't know how they didn't make it into the short list. I think a lot of our initial work on it was very like, okay, well, these are the people with the skills that we want to match these particular terrors. But now we're sort of mixing it up a bit, and we realize that a lot of our terrors are very Eurocentric, and actually there's a lot more out there that we need to be bringing in on the terrorist side. And then I think that's going to feed into us being able to bring in some less Eurocentric heroes as well, because we've got, we need to slightly mix up some of the symbols and the skills, and then we can slightly mix up the people that we're including. But also another one of the stretch goals that we had on the Kickstarter was some people in the comments, some of our backers, said that they would really like some blank character cards so that they could put their own people in, because obviously we're slightly limited by what's in the what's out of copyright, what's outside of people's estates if they've died recently or something. We can't put any people that are currently living into the gameplay, but having the blank cards in there means that people can put their own heroes in and go, well, actually, I really love I don't know, the women from Hidden Figures, Katherine Johnson, for instance. But we can't put her in the game because she's too recent. But we'd love her to be in there, so people can kind of go, oh, here's a card that's got some sciencey and math skills on, so I'll put that as Katherine Johnson, and then they can use her in the game, which is really, yeah, gives people a bit more scope to put in their favourite characters, and yeah.
Talking of scope, none of this would have been possible without the funds generated by Kickstarter. So tell us what your expectations were, what your goals were, and then what actually happened.
So, so we set our target as 14,200, and we thought, that's about maybe 500 backers. That's, we'll sell maybe 500 copies of the game. We're like, that's like a good target to aim for. And then we're like, if we get to 20 grand, we've got some stretch goals that we can work towards for 20 grand. So I think we had a 16,000 stretch goal and an 18,000 and a 20,000 stretch goal, and we sort of weren't really expecting to get beyond that. But then we sort of kept hitting those goals. Kept kind of going, well, how else can we make this better? And we were really conscious that we didn't want to offer like a deluxe edition. We wanted everybody to have the same experience. We didn't want anybody to go, well, actually, I've got loads of money, I can afford to have all the fancy things. We wanted to make sure that it was really inclusive and that everybody could have that great experience. So we were conscious of making all the things we really wanted in the game as stretch goals rather than as kind of add-ons or deluxe packages or anything like that. So then we were like, well, now we can have fancy shaped meeples. Now we can add in these blank cards that you guys want. Now we can have screen printing on them, which is really exciting. So we just hit that one right at the end, and our final total was 33,200, which is absolutely incredible. Which is over double what our goal was. We had over 1,000 backers. Just it's amazing, really. And I don't know where they all found out about us. Like, Kickstarter is this incredible kind of engine that so many of them seem to come just from browsing Kickstarter, just from they'll back one thing and Kickstarter will say, oh, have you seen this? Which is really nice. So as much as Kickstarter's had some bad press recently with the like blockchain stuff, I do understand why people are keen not to veer away from it maybe just yet. Like, we had to stay with Kickstarter because we'd been building our audience there for 2 years. So we didn't really have that option to move over to GameFound or somewhere. And I think people will move to GameFound eventually, but I think it will be a long process as people kind of get used to setting up an account on another different system. But Kickstarter did a lot of the work for us, which was lovely. But yes, and just like, I want to kind of say like massive thanks to everybody that backed us, because it really, like, it's huge for us. Like, so many massive publishers go to Kickstarter and they don't treat it with the I don't know, like, Kickstarter is there for small businesses, and it's there for, smaller fundraising things and people that really want to do like a good thing and, build that community. Whereas a lot of the big publishers could just go straight to retail and they would sell all their games, like, no problem. There's no need for them to go to Kickstarter, and they use it as this sort of pre-order marketing tool when it shouldn't be that. It's meant for things that are prototypes. It's not meant for things that are completely finished and polished. So it's lovely that so many people kind of went, here's an indie publisher, I really like their idea, I'm going to support them, rather than going, oh, there's the big box edition of that game that I've already got, I'm going to get that too. Which is fine, I do that as well. But it's lovely that so many people were like, this is what Kickstarter's about, and kind of took a chance on us, which is really nice.
I must say that I've I've done a little bit of research into crowdfunding games, but those have all been like looking about ways to fundraise for video games. But looking all around, the sheer number of board games being crowdfunded, it absolutely blew my mind. The board games is an entire universe that I have no experience for. And it feels
Yeah,
like I didn't realize there are people who have literally shelves, floor to ceiling shelves full of board games.
yeah, I might be one of those people. Yeah, our collection has grown considerably over the last couple of years, and what what fascinated me actually about whilst we were running the Kickstarter, because we were then on Kickstarter every day, like checking where our totals were, we were then seeing so many other Kickstarters and going, "Oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that looks interesting." I backed more Kickstarters probably in the last month than I did in like the last 3 years put together because I was just
30 grand on those.
yeah, pretty much my portion of the 30 grand, but yeah, it was it's a dangerous place, and board gamers, like, there's so much great stuff out there, and board gamers are they're such a supportive community. Like, all of the conventions and things that I've been to, like, all of the designers, all of the, like, people that are just coming to play games, all of the hobbyists, all of the more hardcore gamers, everyone is so nice and so friendly and so welcoming, and just like, yeah, they're all so excited to see new games, and nobody's stepping on each other's toes because every game is different. um you might have a similar theme to somebody else, but your gameplay is completely different. You might have similar gameplay to somebody else, but your theme is completely different. And so there's so much kind of scope out there, um, to do so many different things, and everybody's just so excited about each other's games, and everybody's really supportive. Like, a lot of our play testing, we did a lot with other designers, and we've also done a lot with just members of the public that have come to conventions and things. Um, and they both respond very differently, which is really interesting. So the public tend to go, "Oh, I love this theme. This is fantastic. I'm obviously going to buy this." Whereas designers tend to kind of not even think about the theme and just go, "How can I break this? Like, does this make sense? Like, if I is this too complicated? Does that?" Um, but it's been really interesting, and it's really kind of crucial to us to make sure that the theme and the gameplay are so kind of intertwined. Like, every time we kind of would come up with a new mechanic, I would go, "Yeah, but why though? Like, why does that happen in this magical library?" And we go, "Oh, like Jess would say, oh, um, we want to be able to double the skills on that card as a kind of special ability." And I'm like, "Okay, but what in the library is making us do that?" "Oh, it's the photocopier. You've got to photocopy that book to get double the skills." And so you end up with two copies of Little Red Riding Hood helping you out rather than just one. So yeah, we talked a lot about different things. At one point, you could only move like 1 or 2 squares at a time, and if you wanted to move further, you had to have a cup of coffee, like, give you the energy to move further. Um, so yeah, everything was very like, what makes you do this? Um, how can you achieve that thing in the realm of the library? You can't just have copy this card. You've got to have use a photocopier. You can't just have pass through the wall. You've got to use a secret passage. Love a secret passage through a bookcase. Pull out the book, off it. you know. So yeah, things like that. We were really conscious of making sure that the theme and the mechanics tied up together.
Yeah, that's such a skill rather than having we'll build the mechanics and then write a story later, or we've got a story and we'll write the mechanics later. Talking of mechanics and breaking things, and the difficulty of developing anything, have you got any aspirations to turning it into a video game or a mobile game?
It's not something we've really talked about. Like, it would be lovely to be able to do that. Obviously, we've got the digital version of the tabletop game, but I think it comes down to finding the right person who can do that for us. And obviously, we'd probably need to fundraise for it again, because as nice as that 33 grand is, most of that's just going on manufacturing copies of the game. So it's not a lot of that is actually coming kind of back into the business, really. So it would be really nice to do something like that. I personally, I wouldn't even know where to start. Um, so yeah, I've done a little bit of like VR development, but yeah, so minimal. Like, yeah, I do have a friend who makes apps, so I might sort of poke him and go, "Hey, how would we go about doing this?" But he would probably say, "It's going to cost you this much," and we would go, "No." um, but yeah, it would be nice. Never say never.
I'm very gradually learning how to use Unreal Engine, game development engine, because I am determined to make my own games eventually. But as of now, I'm probably less qualified than you to have the slightest idea where to start.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? It's just, if you've got those skills, you just have them, and if you don't, it's absolutely another world.
Yeah.
Give me a board game that's like a physical thing, and I can cut it out of paper and go, does this work? That's fine. But yeah, putting me in front of a screen of numbers and letters and going, code something. No idea.
Madness. Before we've got one tiny element that we'll tie this up with a bow with. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't talked about?
Not specifically, I don't think. I guess kind of, yeah, next steps, I suppose, is the thing, but maybe that's what you were going to ask anyway.
It wasn't, but
Okay.
please go ahead and tell us what is next. That is actually the last thing I've got written down, and like a knobhead, I didn't notice it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so next steps, I guess. At the moment, Sam is working on all the artwork, all the illustrations and everything. She's doing really well. She's smashing through them over these last couple of months. So she's hopeful that she can get them all done by the summer. And then it's just going to be a case of I've got to rewrite the rule book, which is a weirdly massive task, to make sure that people understand a rule book. You sort of go, yeah, this makes sense, and then you give it to other people, and they go, "What is this? I don't understand what I'm supposed to do." So yeah, it's a surprisingly complicated task. And then yeah, getting all the layouts done. I think we're going to slightly resize some of the tiles and things. And then yeah, hopefully we'll be sending it off to manufacture at the end of the year. We put on the Kickstarter like delivery July 23, but we're hopeful it's going to be before that. We figured we'd under promise and over deliver rather than the other way around, because it's so frustrating when somebody's like, you'll have this in January, and you're still waiting for it in August. So yeah, so that's where we're at. We're getting quotes from manufacturers and things like that, and figuring out how much shipping's going to cost to each country, which we sort of knew already, but just kind of ironing that out a bit for people, getting the pledge manager and everything set up. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, but it's exciting. It's an exciting time, and now we know that people actually want it. And we can, we're going to talk to some retailers, maybe see if we can get a few copies in there as well. Yeah, see what happens.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
It has tremendous legs on it, so I think it's gonna. I think it could. I'll be excited to see where it is in a year's time.
Yeah, and yeah, everyone's so supportive, and kind of having that network is so important, I think. So yeah, we've got UK Games Expo coming up at the beginning of June, so we'll be there showcasing some of the prototypes. Yeah.
Exciting. Right, to tie this all up with a nice bow, have you heard of our patented FemPat index?
No.
Okay, so this is the FemPat index. It's the scoring system that we use to grade games on whether they are moving us towards a feminist utopia, or taking us backwards towards patriarchal regression, or are they somewhere in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
So, a game like perhaps Call of Duty in the
Mm-hmm.
past, it would have been very, 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 very backwards in terms of patriarchal
Yeah.
regression.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's improving slightly given the diversity of the characters in the story. And a game like Last of Us Part 2 is moving us massively towards feminist utopia because
Great.
it's women being violent, a lesbian woman being extremely violent,
Brilliant.
which is that's what we want to see. So, where would you put Library Labyrinth on this index?
Oh, right up in patriarchal regression. No. Yeah, I would say it's firmly in feminist utopia. Let's be honest, it's about bigging up loads of women.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely made by women. It's, firmly up there, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. I would even go so far as to say that it is it couldn't be higher. I don't think,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things that is, there are no like quote unquote feminist games,
Mm,
but this actually is a feminist game and it's designed to be specifically. So yeah,
yeah.
bravo.
Thanks. Yes, I think sometimes the word feminism gets a bad rap. It's, the we're not men haters. It's yeah, it's we can reclaim feminism to be actually about bigging up women rather than about hating on men.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we are the feminist gaming podcast. Just so it gets, you go, yep, that's what we are.
Yeah.
Come on in and see what we're about, rather than going, oh, we like games and we're feminists at the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
You have them firmly
Yeah.
enmeshed.
Yeah.
Well, Mill, thank you so much for coming back on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Um,
It's exciting.
it was really gobsmacking and exciting to see the success of the Kickstarter. So I can only imagine how it felt to be watching it tick
Yeah.
up actually involved. If anyone's interested in learning more, we had a very long, very detailed, and really interesting discussion a few weeks ago on the channel, on our YouTube channel, and we've released it as an audio version of the podcast as well. And then we did, the four of us, a playthrough, which was a lot of fun, as Mill will attest to. And we will put the link to the Kickstarter. Can you still donate
We're
if those
we're
ended?
we're accepting late pledges, but the easiest way to do that is probably to go to our main website. And there's a link on there where you can basically sign up on the form. So when we open the pledge manager, you'll be sent an email saying the pledge manager's open. You can now order yourself a copy. So that's probably the easiest way. So that's just librarylabyrinth.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll stick that in the description as well. With all that said, thank you everyone for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching, or if you are listening, particularly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just give us a cheeky 5 stars and a comment, because that helps get us into the eyes and ears of as many feminist gamers as possible. And there are more of them out there than people might think, because we've got people all over the world so far, which is shown by the diversity of your pledges. Half of them are from America. That's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everyone for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.